What's going on, guys? Here for a real talk video for you. Outside touching some grass. Hopefully not poison ivy though, because I am wearing shorts, but I guess I'll just invest in some Benadryl later. I was thinking about this one particular topic when it comes to social media and kind of how people view you, or the version of you that people create inside of their own heads. I remember kind of growing up in an era where people didn't want to be labeled by things. They didn't want to be called something. They didn't want just a singular label to kind of represent everything about them. And I've always kind of subscribed to that. But that's also something that I think people don't like about me and about other people like that, is because they think that, unless you stand for something 100%, then you're a little bit too much in the center, and that it makes you kind of wishy-washy, right? But to me, I always go back to the Bruce Lee quote, right? And it might not actually be Bruce Lee that said it, but Bruce Lee's legacy, it's associated with him, where he said, take what is useful, discard what is useless, and add what is uniquely your own. And that is a quote that I often live by. The reason why I don't sometimes commit to something 100% is because I always like to be open to new information that is out there. I don't like to be limited by particular things, and if new information comes along, I like to reserve the right to change my mind. So if you commit and stick with something 100% and you're associated with that group of people or that ideology, then the moment you disagree with something, then all of a sudden you're kind of written out of it completely. And it is kind of strange to me how people will kind of put you into a box just based upon how you feel about one thing or another, or where you stand on a particular issue, right? And for me, I mean, I'll just use like politics as an example real quick, just as a brief example. But there's a lot of things that I agree with on the liberal side, but there's also a lot of things I agree with on the conservative side. And I don't subscribe to either side. I just kind of like to keep my mind open, and I listen to what either side is saying, and I just kind of mix it together. I try to figure out, if what they're saying is actually useful to me, useful to my life, useful to kind of like help things go in a positive direction, or at the very least, like, do the people that are saying this, like, do they actually care? Do they actually care about what they're saying, or are they just regurgitating what everyone else said? Or do they actually care about me, about like the person that they're trying to talk to about it and give advice to? Or do they just want another person on their team? Like, do they have your best interest in mind, or are they actually, or they just kind of want to gain another member of whatever their group is, right? And this thing also happens on social media a lot too, because if you say something, like say you put out a tweet, or it's like a 30-second clip of something, then based upon that, people will put you into a box and say like, he said this, and that agrees with what this group of people say, so therefore he must be this group of people. Which is absolutely ridiculous. People are allowed to have nuanced thoughts. People are allowed to have different feelings, and people are allowed to change their mind. You're not necessarily beholden to something that you said a year ago. You can actually change your mind, and that becomes with the whole other aspect of social media when it comes to canceling people and not believing people can change and not believing people can do better and become better. And that's the whole point of life, is making mistakes and learning from our mistakes and thinking one thing and then putting it into practice and then realizing that it was wrong and changing your mind. A lot of the most famous philosophical leaders and gurus and stuff throughout time, they all did shit in their past that they regret, they don't like, and then they became better people later on because of it. Think of the stories that we read in manga. Think of Musashi, think of Thorfinn, think of all the mistakes that they had to make in order to grow into the person that was actually wise, that could actually give advice, that actually cared about the people around them. I think a lot of people online that are giving advice, or sprouting themselves to be gurus and stuff, how much do they really care about you, other than just trying to gain another member of whatever their group happens to be, or just kind of saying the same things that somebody else has said. I guess my point with this video is saying that, like, you can't control the version of you that somebody creates in their head. Everybody has a different version of you, and everybody likes to categorize people as quickly as possible so that they feel like they have an understanding of who that person is, because people are messy, they're complicated, they're nuanced. Like, it's really, to really know someone, you have to really know someone, right? But that's not the case on social media, because there's so many people, so it's like you don't have time to get to know everybody, right? So you just see one thing that they think, one thing that they believe, and it's like, okay, he goes in this box, and that's all he's ever gonna be to me. And that's kind of how social media works. And so I'm saying, You know, try not to care, try not to worry about that. People are going to think whatever they think of you. You know, it's said that, you know, you're the hero in somebody's story and you're the villain in somebody else's story. And this is true based upon your experiences, based on when in your life somebody met you, based upon what their ideologies are, based upon what they saw from you or what they heard from other people about you. Everybody is going to have a different idea of who you are as a person. They're going to categorize you, they're going to put you in a box, and they're going to put that box away, and they're not going to care to change their mind, all right? Especially if their entire group is all kind of backing that up and saying, yeah, you know, that's who that person is. So you just have to ignore that. You have to ignore that. You have to not care about what people think about you or what they categorize you as. And you just have to try to remain as authentically yourself as you possibly can. And that means being open to things. And that means that you can change your mind. And that means that if you do want to label yourself as a particular group, you can do that. But if you don't, I don't think you should feel pressured to. You know, I don't think that you should feel like you need to make everybody happy. That you need to, you know, just go along with what everybody says, or agree with this, or agree with this, agree with this. I think it's okay to make up your own mind. I think it's okay to have both, you know, liberal and conservative ideas. If you resonate with whatever each side is saying, I think that's okay. I don't think that you're a bad person if you think something differently than what somebody else thinks, you know? As long as you're not, to me, as long as you're not actively harming somebody else, you know, physically or psychologically, then I don't really think that it matters. I think that you can think the way that you want to think, and I think that you can reserve the right to change your mind and reserve the right to become a better person as time goes on. I think that we all just change our ideas based on our experiences and based upon the things that work for us, you know, and the things that work for the people that we care about that are around us. And that's always constantly changing. It's an ever-flowing thing. And so don't feel pressured by the court of public opinion. Don't feel pressured that you have to agree with something. Don't feel pressured that you have to have an ideology or you have to have a label on yourself. Just be you and think the things that you want to think. But really think about them, you know? Like really think about what it means, what these things mean, and how it works for you and how it resonates for you. And is it going to help your life in a positive direction? Or is it just going to be this stew of back and forth animosity that never ends? And you just get wrapped up in, you know, hating people and going back and forth, and just nothing is solved because these people, they aren't in a position to solve anything. It's just complaining on the internet. And so to me, I think that all of that has to be ignored. Avoid the pressure of social media and just be you. Believe the things that you believe, as long as you're not hurting anybody, and don't worry about the boxes that people put you in, because as much as you try to fight against that, it's going to happen 100%. No matter what, people are going to put you in a box, and it's only going to be based upon the limited perception that they get of you, whether that's a 30-second interaction, whether that's a single tweet, whether that's the title of a YouTube video. It doesn't matter. They're going to see it, and they're going to be like, that is who that person is. Bam. But so what? Doesn't mean you have to change anything about what you're doing. I just hope that it's in a positive direction, and that when you do come to decisions on things, you can stand firm on them. You know, you can put your foot down on something 100%, but also, you know, maybe stay open to new information, because you never know what could happen next or what could be discovered next. So that's my 2 cents. Don't let social media weigh you down. Don't feel the pressure. Be yourself. Don't worry about it. And I'll talk to you guys next time.